Hey there, Mike. It's been a bit.
Hey, Brian. How you doing? Yeah, we always get conflicts. This one's got two conflicts: the work group for Checkpoint Restore, and I'm doing some agentic work. And we've got an internal call for Cagenti.
Busy man.
Busy, busy, busy. Ready for KubeCon.
Yeah, that's next week, isn't it?
Yeah,
Are you heading on site for that one?
yeah. Yeah, fly out
Okay.
next tomorrow.
I think
Start
they
flight.
were,
It'll take me a while to get there. It's like,
yeah, show up early at the airport. I think they were asking earlier if folks are going to be there to decide whether or not they want to do an OCI room like they often do.
it's one of the reasons I picked this one over the work group for Checkpoint Restore.
I go back and look and see
Checking
if
in. I've had people asking me if there was going to be one.
I think Phil mentioned he was going to be there, if I recall the
Yep, he's there.
chat. Okay.
And Akira Suda and
Akihiro, okay. Okay, and Joy did set aside a room for that one, room 302, apparently.
okay.
No?
So we have her
Maybe
for what day?
maybe I might be misreading that. That might just be a tongue-in-cheek humor there. I'm reading the Slack messages here. I I do not know if we got a room.
Okay. Yeah, it's always good to have at least one sit down. Just don't make it on Tuesday. Too much conflict. Thanks for keeping up on all this conformance stuff.
Yeah, we're getting close on this. I've got I'll get my windows reorganized so I can show some outputs from this.
Cool.
Where did that window go? So many tabs. People can only see how many tabs are going on in this thing. Oh goodness. Yeah, let's get this one, hopefully. I don't know if I still have the browser running. We'll find out. I do not. So I need to start that up real quick.
There's Jory. You can ask her.
Joy!
Brandon, Mike,
Hey.
and Tianan. Just kidding.
Okay, I deserve that.
That is amazing.
Hey, Brian. CPU guy.
Yeah, so Mike and I were just chatting about KubeCon EU, and I threw it in the Slack that he and Akihiro are going to be there in addition.
Oh, nice.
So,
And Phil. Yep.
and to addition to Phil. So
Okay,
So
at
let's do
least
it.
three.
Okay.
Do we have any
Sasha
space
was
for them?
asking. Sasha Grunt was, or a few Sashas were asking. Two Sashas were asking if there was going to be a setup.
Okay. Let me okay. So they have bookable space. Um and so I'll just send a note over to the team and
Cool. For
we'll
Monday or probably.
new hire. Why does your thing say new hire? I'm sorry, Monday. Which day would you prefer? Is there a preference?
You should look at his
So
start date, Jory. Pull up his profile and look at his start date.
I need to
Um,
bump it back.
January 1st, 2030. So
It's
happy.
getting too close.
Oh my God, you guys are too much. Monday's preferred for the day, for your meeting day?
Probably, yeah. That would
Okay.
probably be the better.
All right.
You were saying earlier any day but Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really any day but Tuesday, but
And Mike, since you're here, if anyone in that room wants to just dial into this Zoom and leave a laptop running showing the Zoom, that would be awesome. And then when I can get that pushed up and we can have a recording of anything that happened there.
yep. We'll bring laptop and point it towards the group.
It's just that easy. I try to keep it super simple. Turn, point, done.
Well, they can probably use this too, but we'll see.
And
One
if
of
the
those
time
two
is
will
good, I'll
happen.
try to dial in from afar. It's kind of fun hearing all the excitement happening over there.
Yep. Plan on kicking off the pod sandbox work group. Kidding. It's
You know?
still interested. Still interested. I just got to find time. We're doing all kinds of sandbox work on the agentic side, agents, and we need something bad. It's not always Kubernetes that needs one of these sandbox types. And it should work when it's in Kubernetes or out of Kubernetes. And the MCP, it just it's begging for this kind of stuff. Instead, they're doing Kubernetes controllers when it's in Kubernetes, and they do their own controllers when it's not. And yeah,
So now
reducing
you're
the
saying,
opportunity for standards. We got
now that you're
forks
talking
instead.
about other work groups, I want to go and look at our the
Yeah.
one we were just discussing because what was it that we were pulling up? The bootable image specification that Chris
Ooh.
was asking to the TOB.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
And so another potential work group.
And that's two manifests, maybe above. Would they be their own artifact type manifest or a new type of manifest? I don't know. I don't know. Probably a new one.
We shall see.
Artifact's
Okay.
been overloaded. It'll be an
Where'd
interesting
the,
discussion.
every time they stop turning the share button bright green, I can't find it anymore. It takes me 10 seconds. It used to be this big bright green button in the bottom center of the screen. You couldn't miss it. But yeah. So anything more on the KubeCon that we want to chat about over there? Ha-
Just sent the request in to uh Lindsay and Elna, and I'll let you guys know. I'll put it on the calendar when we get it booked.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. Whenever we get that distributed to the team. Otherwise, the only thing I threw on the agenda here, on this part was I've been chugging away at the conformance. In my branch right now, it is now moved over from conformance 2 to just conformance. I've overwritten the directory and said, okay, this will be, we're getting close enough here that I don't need the old stuff to go back and look to anymore. And it's got the same variables. All this is pretty much unchanged since when most people have seen it before. The YAML config is still in there, all that good stuff. I have at some point in here updated. Let's see, the README in here talks through, well, the GitHub actions. I have updated, made a PR for some of this stuff. So that exists. And that is part of the actions down here, right? So yeah, we got an action in here. And I think there was some other like instructions or something that might have been in the other repo. Because I also worked on this side as well, the OCI-conformance. I started working on this repo or I put some other steps in there. I ran into an issue where the path was not supported. I probably can get rid of that. I think I was hitting some challenges with different version numbers and things. And if you run it with new version numbers, that got rid of that. Changed a bunch of little stuff in here, but mostly I was rewriting the web page itself. So this is a fairly significant rewrite, a whole bunch of HTML stuff to look at there. And the generator for the page now it has some extra code down the bottom, ignoring all this stuff. There's some code down here. All this the same, just kind of tweaking some new versions in there. I say everything's the same, everything is different. The important change, though, was before we were looking through the submissions. We get the file names. I'm looking for my big change down here without scrolling too fast on folks. Yeah, so the workflows before was just, hey, grab all the workflows I ran. Now it is try to get the workflows, and there are two different ways you can get the workflows. So one of them is to look for the results file. And if it sees those, it runs a big, pulls in the YAML for the results. And the other one does it completely differently. The other one we had already before function at the bottom that pulled in the workflows. So this workflow from JUnits, that's the same as before. That's the old way. And so that's the fallback, which does the get workflow from JUnit. The new way is to load in the unmarshal the results file. And so it looks to see, does that YAML file exist? If it does, it starts processing that YAML file. And the results YAML, I'll pull an example up in a bit to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. It's super simple YAML that just says, hey, pass, fail on all these different tests that we ran. And the reasoning for all that is that before we only had 4 workflows. We only said pull, push, content discovery, content management. Now we've got a whole bunch of workflows. All these different data tests, API tests, versus the old version stuff out there was just the 4. So I automatically collapse this list. When it gets too long, I think I say 5. And so that way all the stuff that just had the 4 shows up like it did before. And what I highlight is just the things that aren't supported. Now, if you fail the test, it's going to bounce back and say you can't submit your conformance with a failing test. But assuming it works, it'll show up and work that way. And then the new results where we've scrolled through this before, where it just has each of the different tests. If you're testing like the SHA-256 blobs, do all those tests. The 512 blobs runs a whole bunch of tests over there. And then different things, just pushing simple image, pushing or querying the tag listing of that, doing a pull of that image. So do a whole cycle around an image, an uncompressed image, a large manifest, an index, all these different kinds of data types. We're running some very similar tests through each one of them. Whether an artifact is manifest or an index of artifacts, whether it's got layers, whether it's got a subject, if the subject points to a missing descriptor, whether we have the data field. So we got lots of tests. This is where all these different data tests are coming in, and all these are configurable. The nice thing is, like I'm saying, all those are configurable. So you can turn them off if you don't support it with either a YAML file as your input or environment variables, and then all the APIs to test. So that is there. So the updated PR for conformance is sitting out there for people to look at. The updated instructions, this is the thing I was trying to get to before. I took a long roundabout turn for that. The updated instructions points out that, hey, we got a new file that's out there. And here's how to do the upload. Some of the stuff was just clean up markdown formatting when things aren't broken on line feeds, that sort of stuff. I'm just breaking the line feed on the end of the sentence for a bunch of this. And I reformatted instead of having just a random block. I just made a markdown list. A couple of the changes just make it prettier. And my YAML, or no, my markdown linter complains if a table does not have the same line length on everything. You can either have all the entries in the table without any space at all, but none of us do that because all of us like to make the first column line up, but then we don't make the last column line up, and that's when the linter says you got to pick and choose. So I picked and choose and made all lines equal. Badges are still there. Let's see, and all that is there. So Netlify was fun to figure that out, had to work all that out. So this PR is up, and going to that one, that even has the deploy preview. Now, I didn't include a sample, like I've got the sample on my own local machine here where I've got a whole bunch of these. This is just showing if I run that code in there, it's just changing stuff. So it's got some boxes with a bunch of things in a drop-down list versus before we had previously the columns in a table like this. So slight rejiggering, but mainly because I couldn't make a table like this when I had 50 some items on one and then 4 on another column, and just didn't work out logically anymore. So conformance page is updated. The test itself, getting pretty far along there. I think we're on the home stretch. And so, yeah, any questions on all the stuff that I just kind of blew through? No, because I'm kind of jumping around. I don't have a really structured explanation here.
Couple questions in the chat you might want to take a look at.
Oh, I didn't look at the chat. Thank you for that. Okay. Submit conformance test with failing test. So you can disable a test. And so instead of having the test fail, you can say, I don't support this. And when you do that, and you say, I don't support a whole bunch of these different features, it will show up in there as more X's at the top of saying, hey, they have a registry, it passes the conformance for 1.1, but it doesn't have features for SHA-512. It doesn't have features for deleting blobs, something like that. You can have all those X's in there of all the different things you don't want to support.
Is it not more interesting though to be able to click in and see exactly how it fails?
Um,
It's more
Potentially.
interesting to me. I just don't know if I'm just a unique user there or not.
No, that makes sense, Tim, to go ahead and get the result, but allow them to skip it with a not supported. So try anyway. I like
Oh,
it.
to have a skip that tries anyway,
Yeah,
so that they can note, we know this isn't supported. We don't support this, but here's what it looks like if you try to use it.
makes sense.
I don't know. That's making Brandon's life harder.
It is.
I have
Hi.
one other. Yeah, so I think there's going to be one test on here that shows up as a technical failure in your test, but like as a practical not failure on Hub. And so I'm kind of curious on how to do that. So this is one where technically per spec, I think we're fine, but per test, we're not. The refers response on Hub is generated async. And so if you push a refer and then immediately get refers, it doesn't show up. But if you pause like a second, then it will. And so I'm kind of curious, is that something that would be interesting in like modifying the test to allow for some delay, or is there like a partial? And maybe this is just hey, technically we're just not going to support that because of.
Yeah, I had done that for delete operations where I was saying, hey, I've got some things I'm running where I'm running it too quick and I was getting some errors on certain registries. That would be an interesting one to have maybe potentially a refers atomic line in there. Just say, hey, this is potentially not going to happen right away. And I can put a conditional pause in there, just, try to retry after a few seconds if the first one doesn't work, wait a second or two, retry, wait a second or two, retry. And if you failed after a few retries, then I can just say, look, it may be non-atomic, but it is definitely taking longer than we expected in the test. So for that, I would say throw some feedback in the PR. That way we don't lose it.
Okay, will do.
And yeah, I got distracted from some of the earlier comments because I was getting ready to answer the question in the chat, which is how do people get in here? And that is Tiana included, but this is pretty much linked on the specification of how to do it when it fires you over the page there. Essentially, when you go to the conformance page, it directs you in here to here's the inputs, here's how you run it. But then the page itself is submitted to the conformance repo itself. So if I go over to the conformance repo, one more for that. it lists in here, hey, there's a test for a distribution, follow the instructions, and the instructions walk you through everything. And this right now is as it is on the web page. This is not with the PR that I was just showing. All of this page is going to change a little bit, but it steps you through the whole process of run these steps, generate this file, and submit it up as a PR. Once you do that, we review them and then get it merged. All right, so more people
Thank you
want to
so
see
much.
failures. Yeah, you bet. More people want to see failures. We can work that direction if you guys want to. The one challenge I'm worried about is if we start getting failures, us reviewing might have a challenge to review those, because how do we know if the failure is still spec compliant or not? Like it's failing the spec for a certain API, but the spec doesn't say you have to support every API. I don't have a good answer there.
It's still it's a pass because they blocked it, but you can see the result and you could show the a red X there.
So that was the original path I was looking at, but what I'm hearing from the chat is people actually want to see the failure come through without me blocking it. So
Right.
to not block the test, to let it fail, and to leave it configured to test it, and then it comes in here, and instead of having a little black X in there saying, hey, we didn't test this because they disabled the test, it's going to be a red X of saying, hey, they tried to test it and it failed hard.
Maybe I should clarify. So for example, for like a read-only registry, like say Microsoft's MCR, I would expect them to explicitly skip the push tests.
Yeah, there,
Um, and for
there's
those,
configuration for
like
that.
trying the push is not a valuable output. It's not meaningful. It will just be 404 or 401 or whatever error code they return for attempts to push. And I think that's reasonable.
It is reasonable. It's valuable information to know. Yeah.
What I'm more thinking about is cases like Docker Hub where we are conformant, but there might be a slight gap. And I think reporting that as failed conformance with here's the actual output of the test that shows the gap is more useful to end users than just saying, oh, we don't pass that one right now, so we skipped it.
Do we want to take the option away for them to disable, or do we want to just encourage people to self-submit saying we've got a failing test?
I think for failing tests, I would rather see the failures. I would rather have a page full of failing conformance registries.
But is that something you want to encourage Docker Hub to submit on their own that way? Or is that something that you want me to take the option away in the conformance test so that they can't even turn it off if they wanted to?
Oh, I don't know. I think having both is probably fine. Especially since you show it very obviously on the conformance results, right? It shows up as this test was skipped explicitly.
The skip test do not show up, obviously. The skip test, I'll report it up top and say, hey, I skipped that.
Yeah.
But the skip test also in there, like there's two ways that this can go through. And one of the ways it can go through is that I tried it and it came back with a result that
Oh, that said it was unsupported.
I tried it, I hit the thing, and the registry responded back with a valid response. It passed all the stuff that the registry was supposed to do, but it does not support the feature. And so the response from the registry was, hey, you tried to do a push with an anonymous mount here, and I responded back with, instead of giving you a 201, I gave you a 202 and said, here's your location, start uploading now. And that is a valid response for the registry, but they don't support the feature. And so that's one option. And I flag it. I let you know, hey, I did the fallback and the fallback worked. And the registry did exactly what they were supposed to do when they don't support this feature. But there's other registries that might come back with a 400 or a 500 or something like that, and that's a hard failure. And so between those two, if they disable the test entirely, you wouldn't even see this. If I come back and detect that the registry doesn't support the feature, I'll show it as a gray and say, hey, it's not there.
I see.
If it goes as a fail, this would turn red and it just says, hey, they gave back a 500 instead of a 202 in there. And so there's an issue that somebody needs to look at.
But if they disable it entirely, it shows up in the other list, right?
If they disable it entirely, it won't show up in this list of tests I ran, but it will show up as a test that's not configured here, and it will show up in the top level of saying, hey, they don't have that API enabled.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
So
Especially since it encourages them to update their non-support of that feature to be spec compliant so that it skips appropriately and lives in
yeah,
the test results instead of on this top level page.
yeah. What I'll do, I'll go ahead and tweak the code so that you can submit it with a failure in there. Like I say, that changes from just a gray X to a big red flag in there, but I'll at
Yeah,
least make sure that it doesn't bomb out the submission process and that we can render the page for that.
yeah, I like that. Feels more honest.
Because originally I was just going to say, hey, if you try to do that, we won't even let you submit it, but I'm hearing otherwise, so I'll make that adjustment.
Well, it looks like we lost Jeff, but maybe he
Jeff ran
won't
away
like it, but
screaming.
I'm going to submit Docker Hub on his behalf anyways.
Oh boy.
With a big red X, because like that sounds great. Like being honest about that doesn't hurt us. People know that the tools work.
And yeah, if there's any question of how did I pick which registry I'm picking on, it is because it's my registry I'm picking on. I feel bad that Jeff ran away because the only other topic I had to discuss other than this was that I have been working on supporting the pushing multiple tags on all the reg and reg clients. So I'm getting to the point that we at least have an implementation out there. I know he's still working on the other half. Um, how am I testing SHA-250, SHA-512 blobs over here? You like that question, huh?
What?
Blobs are actually really easy to test. They aren't the hard part. And so I can do a post only on a blob and I hit it to the URL with SHA-512 as the upload. I can pass the digest and say I'm uploading it with that. If I do the post put, I can say, hey, give me a URL. The URL comes back. I do the put to that URL. It says, hey, everything looks good over there. On that put, if I just do a post put, the digest parameters there and the registry can come back and say it's supported. If I do a post patch put, where it's like the chunked upload that a lot of people are used to, that one would you'll start to see is that I do the upload, send all the data, and did this send a blob there, a digest at the end? I have the state. I think there is a digest somewhere. Yeah, there is a digest somewhere in there, but that is in the put. The patch did not have it. So that is on the registry to support doing a put with that digest after it's already received the data to know that, hey, by the way, I just changed the algorithm you're expecting and it's supposed to give me back that in there. So each of these different APIs, the blob upload is not the problem. It's the manifest upload that's the problem we've still got to work on.
So this is basically currently all working in your registry.
Works in my registry. It quasi works in other registries too. I mean, we do run into problems with it, but there are registries that support at least some of these APIs.
I see. And then we are following the spec that we have so far. Like,
Yeah, this is all following the spec and it all pretty much, the stream upload. This is the one that I think people are used to seeing out there where you just do a patch to a URL, don't tell it anything about it, and at the very end. The challenge we'll see on this one is that some registries, similar to the patch upload before, if they don't get the digest until the very end, sometimes they're not expecting it. And they'll come back with a SHA-256 instead of a SHA-512. Sometimes they'll throw other kinds of random things at me, but technically this is all supposed to work per the spec.
I see.
So none of this stuff required a spec change. The thing that we have to do a spec change for, and that I was hoping Jeff would be around for, is that we need to support when you push a manifest by tag with a non-canonical digest. And that's where the spec doesn't have a clean way to do it yet. We've got 2 proposals for that right now.
I see. Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a few to-dos in the code somewhere in there where I mentioned, hey, we need to add the SHA-512 support again. Let's see, I think it's all my API or maybe my run.
So is there anything the community can do to help?
Test your registry, give me feedback if anything's broken.
Cool.
Because
Yeah, sure.
all this in the PR itself, you can pull the PR, you can pull my branch, run it with whatever options you need to run it with, and see if you get failures. And I can
Yeah, I
almost guarantee you'll get failures.
think we were basically hoping to implement after the spec is done, but I feel like the spec is quite there, that like we can start implementing it, I think, right?
Yeah, so blobs in 512 spec has been there. There's no changes we had to make for that.
Okay.
There are changes we might want to add to make it better, but we don't have to make it functional today. The better thing is that it would be nice if you're doing a blob push and you sent the digest after the patch with a streaming or a chunked upload. It would be nice if you told the registry what algorithm you're going to use before it starts to receive data, because registries like to do that kind of stuff on the fly if they can. They don't want to go back and reprocess the data with a different algorithm.
Mhm.
So there is a suggestion I've got where we want to pass the algorithm on a post request to the registry to say, hey, I want to do an upload and I want to do it with this algorithm. And the registry returns back location. Then at the end of the final put, then you'll say, hey, now that you've got the algorithm and all the data, here's the digest I computed. And the registry says, yeah, I got the same one. So that would be a nice addition for blobs. For manifest, somewhere in all that code in there is a bunch of to-dos saying, hey, we need to support the 512 in here as well. And let's see, yeah, to do SHA-512 digest as one of the, I think this is my generate data chunk. Yeah, this looks like my generate data. I generate a lot of data. Yeah, generate data. So I need to generate the data for it, and I need to run the test for it specifically to push a manifest with a tag and a different digest algorithm. And that's going to require a little bit of work on our side to get the spec updated. But we've got 2 proposals, and I'm more than halfway through testing Jeff's proposal for that. And then I've got my own proposal a while back that I'd already tried out, but I kind of like Jeff's proposal, so we'll probably go his direction. For anyone wondering about that, that was discussed previously. This one's 600.
Yeah, I was looking into that one.
Yeah, this will help you when you want to push the manifest. So I've got code on my side to implement it. We need a few implementations on this to give us thumbs up that says, yeah, this looks good to us. So I'm trying to be one of them. Docker Hub is trying to be another. Other registries that want to try it out and see if it looks good to them, that would be awesome. Even if you don't publish the implementation, but you get it working, I'll have Reg Client probably in the next, maybe later today, if not tomorrow. Reg Client will be able to support that to push in with the suggestions over here. So if you want to test a private implementation somewhere, you can fire that up and try to push some content around. Gives you some things to work with. But yeah, Jeff's proposal out there, that's probably the one we're going to go with, unless someone comes up with a complaint. Okay, I
Cool.
did a whole
Yeah.
lot of
Thank
talking.
you
Go
so
ahead.
much. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you bet.
honestly, just saying thank you.
So I did a whole lot of talking over there, chatting about stuff in the spec and what, or the conformance test. Did I talk too quick on things? Folks want to see more details on anything in here? Questions about what's going on? I will say in the PR, not the 600 PR, but over here in this one, I do have a question whether or not we might want to try to reuse auth tokens between tests. That's going to be a challenge though. Because if you use a old auth token on a new request and the auth you need changes between those requests, you're going to run into issues. And I don't know if I want to do that in conformance. So right now I'm aligning with how we did the conformance test before, which was pretty much every request just goes through an authenticated and the registry responds back, hey, you need to do this authentication, and we just do an auth per, it's per test kind of, but or per API call. But I wonder if we want to make that much, much less granular. Yeah, it keeps it simple, ROM, but it really slows things down. The reason some of my tests run so quick is because I have the authentication turned off on it. Because otherwise this thing would not be running. Got my keyboard in the wrong spot there. Oh yeah, I gotta actually use the wheel. Start and end time there. Yeah, I would not be running in less than a second like this. That is that's way too quick. Thanks, Ajay. And yeah, I'm interested in seeing how the 512 turns out as well. When I turn authentication on this thing, this test, it takes a lot longer, less than a second. So I've thought about, is there ways people get input because we're running a lot of APIs. And yeah, the reason Nola Reg is the happy registry right now, Rom, is because every time I do a test that breaks it, I fix it. So so otherwise even Nola Reg was red for a few of these. Everything was breaking on some of these tests. I found all the edge cases. But I know I've broken Zot, I know I've broken the distribution project, and I have not even tried against a bunch of others because I know a bunch of others are just based on top of distribution. So yeah, priority list for the test. I think, I don't know if I want to say priority list, but I kind of think the direction folks are going of saying, let's just have some of the tests in there, more of these report back the failures, and then let the community themselves kind of decide what's important to them for features they want to see working. Yeah, see, I keep breaking everybody. OCI mem I broke.
I will say the experience of running these new tests and fixing a registry is a joy. It was fun. I had a good time hacking on the tests, and you go back and forth and go, oh, that's interesting. And you go dig into where the logic is breaking and figure out how you need to change it or fix it.
There was also a Jeff request at one point that said, hey, can I run just one test because I'm trying to debug something? And so I did put that in there for him, which I think can be useful for other people that are debugging something that they know is breaking. What if the clients break when we fix it? Well, we're fixing it to follow the spec. So if clients break when we start following the spec, then the clients need to fix the clients.
Yeah, it's really hard to write conformance tests for the client. So the best we can do is make sure the server is aggressively conformant, and then any client broken by that needs to be fixed, frankly.
When you say client test, are you thinking of some of your client-side test code, or do you actually test against Docker and cryo and containerd and all the different client side implementations. All of them. Okay.
Yeah, if anything, these tests should make those tests more successful, not less. In any case where they make it less successful is probably a bug in that client.
Or potentially maybe we need to change the spec, but
Yeah, even less likely, but still possible.
we'd never do something like that.
Yeah, the spec is perfect. We definitely didn't delete half of it.
And some of your concerns there, Rom, I pushed back to Tianan when he wanted to test even more data in there, where I started saying, well, we can try to say a registry is bad for accepting certain data, except everybody added that data we wanted to reject when we started supporting certain stuff that BuildKit was pushing a long time ago. So we tried to follow the spec as close as we could on the spec, but not being too difficult about it. Yeah, one step at
Yeah,
a time.
I mean, my opinion is that we should test that BuildKit edge case and we should make it a hard failure, but that one's a spicy one.
You got some hot takes today. I can't imagine why Jory would be like, and Tianon.
I do appreciate Tina and sharing how like and being not facetious about the joy. I'm glad for you guys to enjoy your craft. Makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to find places where a registry is broken. Maybe that's a personal failing, but I thought it was cool and I loved having better tests. It made it more fun because I had something to actually test the fix and see that I was successful and that the registry was now more correct.
I think I gamified it with that green bar at the top. You
Yeah,
just want to get this thing all the way up.
It looks really good.
yeah, it's very addictive.
It's
I want to do a test. I want to write a test. I wrote a web platform test one time with a lot of help, by the way. But
got to write a registry.
yeah, I want a new goal, get a commit into all the major tests.
We need a Jory reg.
That one will be broken all the time.
We'll submit up the conformance and let everybody know.
It's the control group.
Yeah, there are a whole lot of tests in this thing, and people keep asking for more, and I'm more than happy to add them because why not?
Ship it first.
Ship it.
That's why.
I will say all the data tests in there are the one thing that we keep adding more and more to this, and this is the thing that we couldn't easily do before, was adding a whole lot of data against all the different APIs. So that is also one of the reasons that I like being able to turn off a test, or someone might want to be able to turn off a test, is if there's certain kinds of data that blows something up, because what'll happen is you'll try to push a missing subject and it won't respond back with the right response from a manifest push, and then the manifest delete doesn't work, and a couple of these other APIs. And so all of a sudden, all your APIs show up as not working, or it's really just on this one data type you had a bug.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah, that's exactly why I think it's very reasonable to have both skip and the possibility to upload with a failing test.
Yeah.
I like it.
Alrighty. Well, like I say, on the other side of things I've been working on, Jeff says he joined late. No, that was last week. This week he left early. So, yeah, I have been working on supporting the stuff Jeff wanted to see with the pushing tags by digest. So hopefully we'll make some more progress on the 600 PR as well. And both of those will have, I think people will start to like OCI again for a change. Get it together, chap.
Hey, one quick question. I think you have answered it or talked about it. So the registries that currently do not support any of the 512 stuff, are they like, will they show failure in the conformance test?
Out of the box, yes.
Okay.
But if you go in there and you want to turn that off, that is an option to disable certain test. And so you can go in and say specifically for blobs, where do I have it? Data blob, SHA-512, data SHA-512. So you can disable just the SHA-512 data test if you want to, but by default they're enabled. And so each of these things, a whole lot of them, I won't say every single one of them, but a whole bunch of them have little tweaks in there where you can say, turn that test off for me. And that's one of the things Jeff was asking about at the very beginning was, hey, can we turn off this refer being so quick on the response? And yeah, I can make a similar atomic response in there like we had for some of these others where I was pushing a blob and immediately deleting it. And some registries took a while to be consistent on that. So we can add more tweaks if the registries need it. And that'll at least be shown. Users will see that, hey, we turned this test off, so it wasn't atomic, but at least it was eventually consistent. But then, yeah, if you've got a registry that has certain data doesn't support, you can go in there and tweak that. If you've got certain APIs you don't support, you can tweak that as well. And we accept it by environment variable or YAML file. And all of those in the conformance test, where did I have that? So these were the old instructions. The new instructions have all those details in there. Get this page up again. I should just browse my branch. Can I do that? I can do that. That's even easier. So the updated instructions in here, when the new conformance test is out there for people to use, has the details of, hey, run all that. Here's the script you can run. Pass these variables into the script. One of the things I tried to do was that I had the conformance test still look at the old variables. So I changed these things from OCI namespace with an HTTP colon / yada yada with your registry to OCI _ registry, and there is a TLS disabled if you don't have it on TLS. From namespace to repo 1 and repo 2. Some of them stay the same, but as best I could, I have everything with fallbacks. And so if you use the old variables, you'll get a warning somewhere in there that just says, hey, heads up, you're using old variables, you should update, but it should all still work. And even this stuff right now is using the test move from using a Go test interface. Couldn't load the page. Things just took too long. The stuff in the past was using a Go test interface where you ran Go test and build a binary from the Go test. Now it's just a Go build, but I still had the test sample test harness in there. And so if you run a Go test in there, it will generate a test and it just runs my main with a little extra flag in there. And what that flag is doing is it's just passing through that, hey, they're running the test in legacy mode. And then I put a little banner at the top that just says, hey, you're running this with a Go test, use Go build instead. Just gives them a heads up. But it still works. So ideally, and I've done this on some of my own code. Let me find it real quick among all my tabs. Yeah, so I tried on my own project just tweaking which conformance I was running. And the change was instead of calling the OCI distribution spec, I was just calling my repo conformance test v2. And I did change the variables, but for a while I wasn't, just to see if things were working or wasn't working. So if folks want to try this with some of your own GitHub actions, and this is just a draft PR, so I'm not even shipping it out there anywhere yet, but it's something that I could try if I wanted to. So if you want to just try changing your conformance test that are running in your GitHub actions and see if things work and look good on your side, give it a try. Just put this branch in there. I'll even copy this to the chat. People can copy and paste. And if I break something when you do that, then we'll know we want to hold off on merging something until we fix that. but this applies to everybody that's got a registry out there where you've got this little live result banner. So all of those should be people like Keppel. Well, they're failing, so they don't really care. But Reg had one that was passing. Open Registry had a whole bunch they were running out there. SOT has theirs they're running. And then some of the closed source ones might have stuff, but yeah, GitLab has theirs, so they might want to test it. So a few of those, give it a try, throw it out there and see if anything breaks. And that way we get a heads up before we hit merge on it that, the conformance tests are going to break when we do that. So we'd like to know that. I did make a sudo beamage command a long time ago that was just an alternative to sudo and just did a Docker run and did a pivot out as the root user of the host. Just for lulz, it was my own version of sudo. That was a non sequitur there to Tianon's comment in the chat. Alrighty. Anything else folks want to chat about? We got a few minutes here. We are getting close to having this thing merged. We're getting close to me saying it's ready to be merged. How quickly it's going to happen with maintainers actually reviewing, we'll see.
Can we do a blog?
Blog.
Weblog.
I like a blog idea. I like the blog idea.
Weblog.
Unleash hell. Ram is ready to roll with this thing.
Ram's choosing violence today.
He did. Ram, have you given it a try with the GitHub action? Throw it out there, see what happens. Alrighty. Give us another 30 seconds here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up unless someone has anything else. I'm going to capture Joy's note that we should add a blog.
Yay.
Is there any timeline, or are we just based on maintainers availability for the release?
Everything happens at OCI pace. I wish I could give you a firm answer.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm just curious.
I suspect with something this big, it's going to take a little while just because, A, it's that big. It's not a small PR. And it's kind of an important one because of how much it touches all over the place. But also just trying to get a maintainer in there to spend the time to review it, look over and make sure everything looks right. It's going to take a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. Thanks.
But I will say, to push this stuff forward, the more registries we have out there that have tested it and have given the thumbs up and said, hey, I tested it against registry X and it looks great, that helps us.
Yeah,
I think that might help Mike.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Take it out of draft mode. Cut and run.
So
get it going. It'd be much easier for you to have a second PR, waiting in the wings that's to update this one.
Well, you say that, but there are people that run directly against main. And once this thing goes, the GitHub Actions runs.
I'm just saying, if you take it out of draft and get the process going on the reviews.
Yeah.
Historically, if you keep improving, you'll never get it merged. Right? It becomes a very long thing, which might be all right if you want to just host the testing and the results in a different repo for a while.
So the thing that makes me hesitant is once we hit merge on this, there are people that have their GitHub Actions on their repos pointing to our main. And so we can break other people's GitHub Actions workflow on their project when we merge this.
Thus, the importance of getting them to start realizing it's about to happen.
Yeah.
Just recommending.
Yeah. On our own GitHub Actions, we have tests in there against SOT, and I've already gone in there and switch that over to Ola Reg because I couldn't get those to pass with Zot. So sorry, Rom. But I still have Zot in there. I have both. But I'm probably going to have to set Zot to say ignore any failures for that one for now. And versioning the GitHub action. The reason I like having this stuff going directly against main is that I have versioned the test code itself. So I have in there, I can reshare this real quick. Get my display shared up again. So in the conformance test itself, get this reading back up, there is a variable that you can set, which is which OCI version do you want to test this with? And that tweaks which these tests are going to run and what the defaults are. You can always override the defaults, but it sets defaults in there saying, hey,
Nice.
we didn't have refers in 1.0, so I'm not going to test the refers API. I will still test data that has refers in it, but I won't test the refers API, and I won't expect you to respond back with the responses if I start to push that. So this variable here is nice to have, and then we can update this code to say, hey, we've got new things to test, new data we want to test. And if you want to make sure that still works on a 1.0 registry, it's nice to see that that's still there without being permanently locked in of saying we released the 1.0 and we don't ever consider any other alternate ways to test a 1.0 registry. So I moved the version into a variable instead of making it whatever we merge a certain data commit or something like that. Now I can't look at the chat again. Let me pull that up. So hopefully that gives you an idea, Ram, of why I was moving away from that. Previously, we have been tightly bound to a Git tag on the OCI distribution repo. And that made it very difficult. Once we released that tag of the spec, we couldn't go back and make the conformance test updated with any issues we had. So I'm encouraging people to actually go directly against main, but tweak the version if they have an older version registry. And oh, by the way, this supports test and adjust the test, I think. See if this, I don't have it in there unless it's off the side of the screen. Sorry, I didn't scroll over. I have a stable and a dev variable in there as well. And so you can say whatever the latest stable version is or whatever the latest development settings are. So if we're working on new stuff in the spec, like this pushing tags with a digest and whatnot in there, that'll show up under the dev. And so you can test your code against that and see if something we're working on upstream is going to break on your registry and maybe you want to get your registry working a little bit earlier. The more tests, the better.
Fancy.
Alrighty. Well, we just ran a whole hour of me just chatting away, pointing at all the code I've been writing, which is too much code. But like I say, anybody wants to test it, please test. Give it a try. See if it works. See what breaks. Give Mike some reviews from folks. All right.
Great,
Thanks, everybody.
y'all. Talk to y'all soon.
Thanks, Joy.
Bye.
And for folks at KubeCon next week, have fun out there. Make sure that if you get a room to fire up Zoom on there so we can all follow along with the fun remotely.
Send me a stroopwafel also. Right, bye.
Bye, y'all.
Cheers.